guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello, hi, I'm Jyotsna and welcome to my booktube channel. And today's video is the ever famous, ever lovely, the beautiful mid-year book Freakout tag, which is kind of being filmed late, kind of being posted late as well. I basically took my own sweet time to make this video and here we are. But without further ado, let's get started. So let's just get on with the questions. All the timestamps are there in the box below, so you can navigate through the questions however you want. But let's start with the first question, and that is, which is the best book that I've read this year so far? And for those of you who know me, I read both non-fiction and fiction. And for me, the book under the fiction category, which is my favorite book so far of the year, is something that I discovered because of the booktube prize, and that is The Five Wounds by Kirsten Valdez Quaid. Yes, I finally know what her name is and how to pronounce her name. And this book is set in New Mexico. It talks about this very insecure man named Amadeo, and when his 16-year-old daughter gets pregnant, it's kind of on him because he is the only male figure in his life, in her life, to make things better. It's a very interesting story about family dynamics. It's a very interesting read as well. And I would tell you, like I've mentioned previously in many videos, that this book is a literary crown. Like, it's the queen of literary fiction. Okay. And getting to my non-fiction read, I actually have my non-fiction read right here in the form of a physical book, and that is The Silent Coup by Josie Joseph. And Josie Joseph has taken, he has guts. Okay, he's been very brave to write this book, and this book basically talks about the deep state in India and how there are a lot of security violations that happen, and how the police and the politicians intermingle. Again, path-breaking book, groundbreaking book. This is soon going out of print because this was published by Context, which was a part of Westland. So please, I request you to buy it immediately, or at least get an ebook immediately, because this is an eye-opening read, the best read, and if you're an Indian, you have to read this no matter what. The next question is best sequel, and unfortunately I have not read any sequels this year. I do not read series, so I can safely tell you that I think even last year this particular question was not applicable, and it's still not applicable for me. Now the next question is a new release that you have not read yet but want to get to. And in my opinion, I have already started reading the book that I really wanted to get to, and that is In the Language of Remembering by Anchal Malhotra. I am currently reading this. This is a new release and it was much anticipated in my opinion. And if I really want to fit like a book into this category, that is a release that I have been meaning to read since some time now, then for me it has to be False Allies by Manu S. Pillai. I do have this book on my shelf. I do have In the Language of Remembering as well on my shelf, but these two books are super heavy books, and I really didn't want to carry them all the way here to where I'm sitting. But the idea being this, that these are the two books that I've wanted to read since some time now, and I've got into it. Next question is a new anticipated release for this year, and for me this book has to be Lies Our Mother Told Us by Nilanjana Bhaumik. Actually, I saw this on ILF's Instagram page when they were kind of launching the promotion of this book, and it really interested me because it seemed like something that all of us Indian women should read, with the conditional misogyny, institutional misogyny that we face so far in our life. You are always told not to do this, not to get there, not to roam at night, all the things that all of these Indian parents tell you. But it's basically about what you kind of teach your daughters in a subconscious manner, and that's, I'm hoping, what the book is about. So as of today, when you're watching this video, this book has released, because this book was released 5 to 7 days back from what I understand, and it is available for a pretty high price on Amazon. Getting to my next question, and that is the biggest disappointment for me of this particular year, and this has to be Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. The thing is that I was very excited to read this book. I absolutely love the movie. I love the way the actors acted it out. And I love art films in general, right? Although I watch very few movies in my life, I'm not a movie watcher. This is one of my top three movies of all time. But unfortunately, the book is really, really bad. Okay, it just shows how unhealthily is Elio obsessed with Oliver. And when other people would tell me that the book is not good, I used to just dismiss them like, no, how can they make such a beautiful movie out of such a bad book, right? And I finally believe that fact because the book really sucked big time. It felt like Elio really had no boundaries. He was in a toxic relationship with Oliver. The only thing that I really liked about the book was like the last 10-20 pages, because one, the book was ending, and two, because it kind of does span to like 10-20 years post their relationship, which is also very interesting to see. But my point is, skip the book, please watch the movie. I don't say this often. I'm unrecommending a book and recommending its movie because the book is super disappointing. And that gets us to the opposite side of the spectrum, and that is the biggest surprise of this year so far. And for me, this has to be Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And I basically read this book for the Bound book club, which is run by Meera, Sonali, and Shruti. And Shruti was just like, I want you to read this book, I want to read this book. And I said, okay, fine, I have it on my Kindle. I'll read it, but you know what? Don't expect high hopes because I may just end up hating it. And I went with really low hopes because my experience with YA fantasy has always been bad. Like, I diss YA fantasy because I am an auntie now, and it's all the young people who read YA fantasy. But if you read YA fantasy, I mean, good for you, you relate to it. But I don't relate to YA fantasy. But I read this book, and the moment I finished it, I actually messaged Shruti saying that, wow, like this is the book. This is what we are talking about here. I think the book is pretty well written. I think, till 70% of the book, I was really bored. I just felt like, yeah, okay, fine. This will happen, that will happen. Like, I'd already guessed the plot. But the way it transpired in the last 30% totally blew my mind, okay? So again, not everybody's cup of tea. Let me tell you very honestly, because the people who watch me are not necessarily people who read YA from what I understand. But yeah, I mean, if you like YA, then of course you'll love the book. But if you want to give it a try, please go ahead, give it a try. I mean, it's not bad. The next one is a new favorite author for me. And this year, my new favorite author is Elif Shafak. Believe it or not, I am never read Elif Shafak before, and I read The Island of Missing Trees by her because it was longlisted for the Women's Prize, and I loved it. I think more than all of her books that I've heard of, this is one of the best books out there. Even Goodreads has a high rating for this particular book because everyone's loving it so much, and I love the way the current events of this world have been covered in the book, including climate change and refugees. It kind of is set in the Mediterranean and keeps switching between present day London and a war torn Cyprus, because of the Greek and Turkish clashes. Very interesting book, highly recommended for sure, and I absolutely love Elif Shafak. Next question is my new favorite character. I think, yeah, okay, no, it's not character. It's actually my favorite fictional crush. I'm sorry, I'm not 12 anymore. I am, like I said, I don't have crushes on people anymore, and I don't like people anymore. I mean, even if I like fictional people, I've learned how to get over it. So no, I don't have any fictional crushes, but I do have a favorite character. My new favorite character is Alethea Lopez from The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen Agostini. And I read this book again as a part of the Women's Prize shortlist, and I absolutely liked the way Alethea was written. The book is written in Trinidad and Tobago Creole, in the English Creole that's spoken in the country, and it talks about Alethea, who is a victim of domestic abuse, of child, sexual assault. She was sexually assaulted as a child, And in spite of all of those, she's turned out to be a very successful person in her life. She's learned how to, deal with her mental state. She's learned how to deal with a lot of things in life. Although I do find some problems with her as a character, but I really, really like the way the character was written for sure. The next one is a book that made me cry, and surprisingly, not many books made me cry this year because I did read a lot of non-fiction, so a lot of books made me angry. But one book that actually made me cry was this book, which is this is Footprints on Zero Line by Gulzar, and it is an anthology of his poetry and his short stories. And one of the short stories that always makes me cry, like every time I read it, it's called Ravi Par, or Crossing the Ravi. So the story is about this Sikh family who is migrating to India from Pakistan because of the riots. So they're just fleeing from a mob, and the wife is actually pregnant and she gives birth to twins, right? And it's the story of this particular family and the tragedy that surrounds them. It's a very heartbreaking story, as you can see, because there are children involved, there are newborn babies involved, and you will be able to read this story for free online. If you read Hindi, then of course you must have read this story already. It's just called Ravi Par. But if you are reading it in English, then search for Crossing the Ravi, which would be the English translation of Ravi Par. And that gets me to our third last question, and a book that made me happy this year. And for me, a book that made me happy was this one, Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh by Shrayana Bhattacharya. And let me tell you, like, if you're a Shah Rukh Khan fan, this book will hit like different. And if you do not know who Shah Rukh Khan, then let me explain. Shah Rukh Khan is one of the most famous Bollywood actors. He's famous around the world as well. He's a very well-known figure all over the world when it comes to the movie industry. And this book aims to explain the economic situation of women in India through Shah Rukh Khan. Now, the people that are interviewed by the author, she interviews them as a part of her research, and all of them find something in Shah Rukh Khan. They find something that's very alluring about him and want a man like him. But unfortunately, a man like Shah Rukh, the character that he plays on screen, only exists on the big screen and it does not exist in real life, right? And it talks about the misogyny, all the issues that they face in real life, and how they dream of meeting someone like Shah Rukh. It's not only about having like a dream lover or anything, it's also about the work that they do in order to survive, and how they kind of have that little form of devotion to Shah Rukh in spite of having money or not having money for that matter. I highly recommend this. It's the great Indian read of this time. I do think that on some level this book can be overhyped, so don't fall into the hype. I would just say go into it with medium expectations and you will come out of it pretty much happy. My favorite part of the book, of course, was the part where the author talks about people from the lower socioeconomic spectrum, that is from villages in UP, women from villages in UP, and how they look at Shah Rukh Khan while they are having this short cottage industry doing zari work at home. Interesting book for sure. I recommend it highly if you're an Indian, because all Indians know who Shah Rukh Khan is. And that being said, I get to the second last question, and that is the most beautiful book that I have bought this year or have received this year. And this is actually something that I received as a gift on my birthday from Manya, and that's this one. This is House of Leaves by Mark Daniel Lewinsky. Is that how we pronounce his name? I don't know. But I absolutely love this book. Basically, this book has a lot of puzzles that you need to solve on the way. It is a book that's like an interactive book apparently. And yeah, I mean, does that make sense? Because I really love the artwork. I really love this rustic page. And this is one of the most beautiful books that I've, of course, received this year. And that being said, we'll get to our last question, and that is books that you need to read by the end of the year. Okay, I'm telling you, I don't want to jinx it up, because I do have a huge list of books in my book journal that I kind of want to not talk about. Like, this is the list, but I have only finished 1, 2, 3, 4 books in the list so far. So should I talk about it? I don't know. But let me talk about the books that I really want to finish. The first one is, of course, Bose and Nazi Germany. This one, I'm actually reading this currently as we are talking. Also, there is another book which is called Azadi by Arundhati Roy, which I have a signed version of. I really want to get to this book as well. And I want to also finish one of the oldest books that I've had in my shelf. It's like 5 years old now, and that is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. And the final book I think I really want to finish this year is Our Bodies, Their Battlefields by Christina Lamb, which talks about women and war. To be honest, I do not know if I'll finish these books or not. I mean, it's all a dream because new books keep coming out every day and I may just like jump into something else. But I'm hoping to finish these ones soon. Not soon, maybe in the second half of this year. I mean, we're already in the second half of this year. But you get my point. So yes, that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I have not actually watched so many mid-year tags today because I'm myself very busy. But yeah, if you want me to watch yours, please comment down below and I'll come and watch yours. Yeah, life is really busy right now, guys. But thank you for watching. Bye.